Welcome to episode 57 of Canes Local. Today we'll talk trade deadlines, new players, where do they fit, week for the Canes, and the takeover tour comes to Raleigh. All coming up next. All right, guys. So let's dive right in. Holy smokes, what a day for a lot of teams. But I guess we'll focus a lot on the Canes and what they did and what they didn't do. So we know the big one they didn't do is they didn't sign Rantanen, but obviously he didn't want to be here. So, but I think we did okay. I think we'll talk really deep into that one. I think we've gone back and forth over the last 24 hours, and I think we came out okay on this one. I do like the players that we got. We do have a lot of draft picks, so I think Tulski did okay on this one. You know, Sucks that we don't have Rantanen, but at the same time, I think we got some good stuff in return.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of just want to preface with if you look at where we were in, you know, January, February before the Mikko Rantanen trade, and you look at where we are now, we're not in that terribly different of a position from then to now. Mark Jankowski, who we did acquire, I'm pretty sure I'm saying his last name right.
It is.
Sorry.
You are.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. But good center. He is a really good faceoff guy. He's going to be able to fill that fourth line role. He understands that he's a fourth line role guy, where I think Drury, while being, probably a 4C on most teams, maybe a 3C on some teams, he wanted more and he always wanted more. And as you should, you're a player. You shouldn't ever be, happy with being a fourth line center. But I think Jankowski almost has that presence about him where he understands that's his role. That's where he's going to play in the NHL. That's what he's going to do. He's a big guy. He's 6'4". He's like 200 and something odd pounds. So we add some physicality back into our lineup, especially in the depth positions. You can have your offense be the smaller guys, your scorers be the smaller guys. But if you have some depth heaviness, now we have it in Stahl, we have it in Martinook, we have it in Jankowski. I would still like to have seen us maybe add one or two more depth pieces being bigger, but I forget we have Eric Robinson. Svechnikov's been playing a big game. Kokiniemi's been playing a big game. I think it's a good add on that front. Now, to really go over to the Mikko portion of it, he was never going to sign here. Yes, we could have said, and I saw Rupp on Twitter was like, why didn't they just hold on to him and at least try to make the effort to sign him through until July 1st? And I'm like, because he was never going to sign. You could see the writing on the wall. He didn't want to be a Carolina Hurricane. And that's, you know what? I take offense to it in the sense of I would have been just happy to be there, everything like that. It's my favorite team. Of course, I would have been stoked to be a Carolina Hurricane. But in the same vein of breath, it's 8 years of this guy's life that he's signing up for. If he doesn't want to be in Carolina for 8 years, I'd rather him tell us now than him tell us 4 years into the contract when he
Yeah.
hasn't produced any points and he just looks like a shell of what he was in Colorado. And now all of a sudden we're trying to do, gymnastics to trade him away and get rid of his contract. It's just, to me, I'm kind of happier that he told us now so we could at least get a return. I mean, Logan Stankoven is nothing to shy away at. He's 22 years old. He's the same age as Seth Jarvis. He's a water bug. He is physical when he needs to be. Yes, he is small. He's 5'8", but he's a lot like Seth Jarvis or Jackson Blake. We have a puck hawk on every line now. If we really go up and down the lineup from 1 to 3, if you split those three guys up, there is a puck hawk on every line that wants it. They're willing to go after, get the puck. Now it's just, can we find the scoring touch for Stankoven, who has struggled with it a little bit this year? But you go back and look at, I always like to compare these kind of, in my mind, the two instant connection, and Cam, you kind of brought it up. Seth Jarvis is a really good comparison point. Go back and look at Jarvis's rookie year compared to his sophomore year. It took him forever to get over that sophomore slump, and maybe a change of scenery would be just what Stankoven needs to really kind of get over that hump that he's going through this year. Granted, is he better than Mikko Rantanen? If Mikko Rantanen was playing the way Mikko Rantanen could play, no. But is he better than what we were getting out of Mikko Rantanen? I fully suspect he will be. I suspect he's going to be more effective and more efficient for the Carolina Hurricanes than Rantanen was, which, again, yes, if we got the top level Rantanen, it's a whole different story, but that's not what we got, and I don't think that's ever what we were going to get. Like, that's not what he was going to do here. He was never going to fit our mold. He wants to play off the rush. Carolina is the worst team playing off the rush. Now, like, I get the trade for Tulski, but in the same vein of breath, it was like we got a guy that didn't really fit the system the first time, where Stankoven now, we kind of corrected our mistake, because now Stankoven comes in and he completely fits our system. But Cam, I'll pass it over to you. I just was like, diarrhea of the mouth, and we get it all out there, and then I'll go over to you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if he didn't want to be here, which was pretty obvious with kind of what's come out over the last 24 hours from what the Canes offered him. I mean, they offered him $13.25 at 8 years, which is more than Colorado, which is more than any other team. I mean, you can talk about the taxes, you can talk about everything like that, but
even after taxes, he was making more money. He makes more money.
He would end up making more
Carolina
money
on his
here.
contract.
I know.
Yeah.
So again, it's one of those where it's a balance, obviously, because, and we know this too. Like, you know, if you're signing up for something, you want to make sure that what you're signing up for, you're going to be happy with. And, you know, you never know, obviously. I mean, he could go to Dallas and it could be miserable for him there. We don't know. Like, I don't wish that upon him. I hope he has a lot of success there for sure. So
I don't. But.
And like I said, I mean, look, yesterday I was hot with him just because it's like, why are you doing this to us kind of thing. But at the end of the day,
I'd rather him tell us now than...
Well, and the more that I look at it, I don't think he would have ever adapted to the system. I think, unfortunately, it probably would have gotten Rod fired. It would have gotten Tulski fired. It would, that's what would have ended up happening. A year or two down the road with Rantanen not working, because I don't believe he ever would have worked in that system. He's not a great wall guy. He's just not. And we've seen that. Like, he's kind of soft on the puck. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I've seen him. I can't tell you how many times I saw him on the boards and he get touched by a defenseman and it just fall over. So
I am curious how much of that is just he didn't want to be here and there was no motivation.
Yeah,
for
I was
him.
thinking the same thing yesterday.
I don't know.
Is that,
I mean,
you
you
know,
never really know.
Because you go back to him in Colorado and he's dominant, like strength-wise on the boards, and you can't get the puck away from him.
He was never on the boards that much, because it was always Nathan that was on the boards. Yeah. Nathan was doing all the work.
They never really played on the boards because McKinnon
did the job for everybody else. So
yeah.
And you look at and so in a vacuum, when we look at it, we traded Natchez, Drury, a second-round pick, and a fourth-round pick for.
So no. I have the full layout here. So it's out. So if you look at us in February, right before the trade, versus right now, without looking at the Rantanen aspect,
in a vacuum, without the Rantanen
big vacuum,
piece,
yes, which it causes a lot of drama, a lot of other shit, but out went Natchez, Drury, and a third-round pick. In came Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, 2 first-round picks, a second, 2 thirds, and a sixth. If you're telling me that's the haul we get for Natchez and Drury, well, Jankowski came with a 6, which was the 6 that we ended up trading for, or we got for in the original Colorado trade. So it kind of a whitewash, so we could scratch off the 6th and put Jankowski there, but it is what it is. But if you're telling me that's what the haul we get back for Natchez, Drury, and a third is Hall, Stankoven, 2 first.
I thought it was a second, 2 second, and not a third.
No, so we gave up a third. We got back a second and a sorry, it's not a 6th, it's a 4th. Sorry, that was the right one. So it's a 4th-round pick, but we got back that from Colorado.
Okay.
The original trade was. Oh, did we give that up?
That's what I thought we gave up. So we gave up Drury, Natchez, a second-round pick, and a 4th-round pick.
I thought we only gave up a third for Hall.
No, we gave up a second.
Chicago.
We gave up I know we gave up a second and a 4th. I don't know who got the second and the 4th. I really don't care. Who was it? Chicago retained 50% of Rantanen's salary for the year. We got the full Hall contract.
Maybe my shit's all over the place.
Either way, we gave up Natchez, Drury, 2 picks. We got back in return Hall, Stankoven, 2 first-round picks, and 2 third-round picks is what we got. So,
Okay.
I mean, again, without looking at the Rantanen aspect of it, like,
Yep.
I don't. I mean, it's not like, look. Do I think Natchez would have become a superstar here? No. This is not his style. He doesn't play he plays off the rush. He plays like the way the Avalanche play.
Yep.
Which is great. I'm glad that he's having success there. I really am. It's hard not to with Nathan MacKinnon, but I am glad he's having success for sure. And at the end of the day, for those two guys, like, Drury was the one I was kind of a little bit more butthurt about than Natchez, honestly, because we as in the Canes, I act like like I'm a part of the team. The Canes really missed that center of like winning faceoffs and winning draws. That's what they've really been lacking. And I think Jankowski brings that. I think he does. And
he's like, I think on the year, he's like 64% or something like
that. God damn it. The Canes need that for sure. So it's, overall, I don't think it's a failure. And even listening to Tulski's press conference yesterday too, he was very much like, look, our plan this year, and the plan had always been, this was a retool year. Basically, like, just kind of getting other pieces in place, trading assets if we need to trade them, to gear up for the next couple of years of really being strong again, just because of the amount of assets they were losing. Tulski said that kind of changed when they had the hot start. So he's like, we kind of went on a run early. We had a really hot start. That kind of changed the plan, so we were willing to take a big swing. And they took a big swing on Rantanen, didn't pan out. But again, and he even said it too, he's like, we're not going to stop taking big swings. Like, we're going to keep taking them. So, which is a good thing. I think that's what needs to happen. But obviously, like, the Gensel piece was he wanted to be here. The contract wasn't there because of the cap constriction. This time it was the opposite. The cap was there, but Rantanen didn't want to be here.
The guy didn't want to be here. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you can't force him to stay. If he doesn't want to stay and he wants to leave, go ahead. We'll win it without him.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Kyle.
No, I was gonna just make a quick point. That's kind of my one view on it. It's like, if he doesn't want to be here, I don't want to force him to be here. We wouldn't want to win a cup with him not wanting to be here. So at the end of the day, I would have rather him told us now, and we can get something in return and actually make a. I think net positive. Yeah, sure. Maybe we lose 2 roster players, and I guess we get 2 roster players back, but it's like maybe not to the same quality, but I think more upside for our system.
But at least we got something for him, because as well as I do, I think
he wouldn't have signed here in the offseason, so we would have gotten nothing for him. We would have walked without Mikko Rantanen. We'd have given up Natchez, Drury a second
for nothing,
for Taylor Hall.
Hall. Exactly. Yeah. So, well, let's dive. Let's step off the Rantanen rant. And we'll.
The last thing I want to do, real quick.
You're terrible of last.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Holy shit!
It's the Logan Stankoven. So just to go over his stats.
That's where I was going. But
okay. Then you can take the change.
No, I was going. I said, let's talk about the new guys. Let's get off the Rantanen rant.
Sorry.
Let's talk about the new guys. So I'll let you go now. Logan Stankoven, what are your takes?
Yes. So we kind of go back and look at his junior career. So in the same season that Seth Jarvis was with Portland, he was with Kamloops. In 59 games played, he had 49 points that year. Definitely his down season as far as total careers, because in that season, Seth Jarvis had 98 points in 58 games. But you go back, and then Logan Stankoven goes 2020, they play 6 games all season. But he comes back to Kamloops for the 2021-2022 season. In 59 games played, he had 104 points. And then he comes back the following year. And this was more because Dallas had way too much depth going through their lineup currently. They just didn't really feel the need to sign him right away. But in the following year, in 48 games played, he had 97 points. Then he goes to the AHL, where in 47 games played, he has 57 points. We talk about our prospects and what they're doing. None of them are at a point a game on average for the entire season. You're talking about a guy who puts up 57 and 47 games in the AHL, like
as a rookie.
The AHL as a rookie coming out of juniors. Now, granted, a lot like kind of Jackson Blake, a 20-year-old rookie versus a true 18-year-old coming into the AHL or something along those lines. But still comes in and torches it, gets called up, and in 14 games in 24 games with them, Dallas last season, he had 14 points, really hot start to his career. And then right now, 29 points through 59 games. He has the big thing that is a net positive. When you look at the under the hood numbers, he generates a lot of scoring chances. His only issue right now, kind of the just beautiful, perfect fit to the Canes, he just can't score. So where do you bring him? Bring him to the team that generates so many offensive chances, but just can't score. I'm hoping it changes. It does feel that's the only thing that I'm worried about is we're netting a real, if Mikko could have ever figured out his game here, we're netting a real positive score going into this playoffs for somebody that is really struggling to score. So that is the weak point of the turn. But I think he can really get there. And I think that what he's going to bring is, I really want to see him alongside Sebastian Aho, because I really think his game, yes, while reminding me a lot of Seth Jarvis, I think his playmaking ability reminds me a lot of a Teuvo Teravainen. He likes to play a real short, tight-knit game. I think Jarvis can play that as well too, but Jarvis is a lot more of a shooter than a passer, in my opinion, where Stankoven is willing to do those quick 1-2s, and he's a pass-first guy. I think this could be a real net positive for Aho in the long run with his scoring touch going into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely. I mean, look, he definitely fits the system for sure. He's a system guy. He's going to be on the wall after the puck. He's going to get the puck. So again, maybe the system that he was in Dallas wasn't truly what kind of system he thrives in. I don't know what kind of system they played in the WHL team he was playing for. I know Dallas's AHL team probably plays a lot of the same systems that Dallas plays, just for continuity between the AHL and the NHL team. But yeah, I mean, I think he's going to do well. I really do. Obviously, like, we were hoping yesterday that it was going to be somebody else that was coming over, but at the end of the day, Stankoven is a good addition. I don't think he's going to miss much of a beat coming over with the Canes. So
Yeah.
I think they have practice. We're recording this on Saturday. I think they have a practice today. I believe it's either a practice or kind of just a quick skate, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. They play Winnipeg tomorrow, so we'll see how he does against one of the best teams in the NHL.
That's going to be a tough test because Winnipeg really tooled up, and they added some pieces. So I mean, they were good before. So I mean, they got better, and they just ran over. I don't
Jersey.
remember who it was they ran over. Yeah, they ran over Jersey last night. So
Poor Jersey.
Yeah,
good for us, but we got to get their Jersey's like a mash unit right now.
I was gonna say, you look at Jersey, they're kind of like the turnpike right now. Everybody's running over
feel bad
them,
for them. I really do.
It doesn't make much of a difference what the team's doing. They're getting more miles on them than the turnpike right now.
So here's the Stankoven. I like the player. I mean, I've always liked him when I watched him play in Dallas. He's just like you said. I think Kai coined it perfectly. He's like a water bug. He's just everywhere, all over the place. He plays every zone the same way. And but his pedigree, though, I mean, you think about it. I mean, we're worried about him going from system to system, but I mean, in the WHL, he was the player of the year in 2022, and same CHL, he was a player of the year 2022. Then he goes to the American League, and he's a rookie of the year. He wins all rookie. He wins first team All Star. So
he's supposed to be up for the Calder this year, basically.
Yeah,
he was like top runner going into the year.
Yeah, he's got the pedigree to do it, and I think what it does show too is that going from league to league, he can find ways to adjust to whatever the style is being played in those leagues. So the WHL is typically not necessarily a run and gun. It's more of a meat and potatoes kind of league, not so much like the Q or the OHL, where the Q is more the run and gun finesse type league. But the further you go west, you get the big, I'll call it the farm boy impact, and it's just they play that real heavy game. So and to watch him play, he's like, I mean, he's only 5'8", but man, he looks like a stump.
Yep.
He is so strong. So it's gonna be fun to watch how he integrates in and what line Roddy puts him on.
Yeah.
To give him that opportunity to get right out of the gate, because we're coming in, his first game. Hopefully, I think he'll play tomorrow, but it'll be against the best team in the league at the moment. So
Yeah.
it'll be a good test for him.
Where are you guys lining him up? Because for me right now, if it's up to me, it's gonna be granted, if this is my team, I get pick lines. First line is gonna be Aho in between Svechnikov, and I would put Stankoven right on that other wing. That the
Yeah.
best way to get acclimated to a new team is play with the best players. And while I don't think Aho's had his best season, I think there might be a little reason to have a chip on his shoulder now, which is another reason why I wanted to just point out Carolina. Don't be surprised if they make a run. I don't know. I don't think they have the legs to get to a Stanley Cup final. They may be able to get to an Eastern Conference final, but this is a team that has a chip on their shoulder. And if we really look at it, if we got the max out of Sebastian Aho, max, he's a point a game player. If we got what we really think could be the maximum out of Andrei Svechnikov, he's a point a game player. If we got the max that we could get out of Seth Jarvis, he's a point a game player. If we got the max we could get out of Kokoniemi, he's a half a point a game player. We have guys in this lineup that can still do the job. We still have, in our eyes, superstars in this lineup. I'm not giving up on the team. Do I think we win the cup this year? No. Do I think there's a chance? There's always a chance. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to now we have to play exceptional team defense and we have to have exceptional goaltending, because I don't think goals are going to come fast and easy for us. I think it's still going to be a struggle for us to score goals, but we still have a system that can work, and it has worked in years past. Fully to get us to the final? No, but I think we're still missing pieces of the recipe. The one thing I really like, Logan Stankoven to me feels like one of those guys that's like a second line center or a second line winger on a Stanley Cup winning team. That he's one of those guys that it's like, or even a third line winger, but just he's a middle six guy on a Stanley Cup winning roster.
Yeah.
And we just added that piece. Now we look at fucking 10 years down the road. We're talking about Seth Jarvis, 22 years old, Logan Stankoven, 22 years old, Andrei Svechnikov, 24 years old, Sebastian Aho, 27 years old. Kokoniemi, 24 years old. We got, Jackson Blake, 21. We got Morrow, 21. We got Nikishin, 24. We got guys. We got players coming in. Our window is not now. Our window was 2-3 years open, but now it's closed again. We are opening it back up here in 2 years, which I think it's going to be about 2 years. I don't think next season is going to be an immediate jump unless we do something big in the off season, which I'll kind of pass it over to you, Cam, just to kind of get your final thoughts, I guess, because I've just been clamoring away here.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, and I feel that I've been pretty consistent with what I've been saying since the beginning of the season, that this is a gap year, this is a retool year, this isn't the year of and again, I'm gonna keep beating this horse because it's very true. The year that the Canes went to the conference final against Florida, that was the year. That was the team. They had all the pieces they needed in place. Yep. The only thing that stopped them from winning the cup was Svetch getting hurt. That's the only thing. If Svetch didn't tear his ACL, I think that Florida series is a lot different. Do I think they win the series? I have no idea, but I definitely don't think they get swept. But again, it's one of those where that was the year for me that they had the best chance. Last year I didn't really think they had a chance, honestly. I mean, I think obviously they have a chance, but I thought the Rangers were too good. I thought Florida was too good. Florida deserved to be back there. But yeah, it's, obviously they could go on a run. I mean, you never know. I mean, you look at Florida a couple years ago. I mean, they barely made it into the playoffs and then ended up going to the Cup final, So it's one of those where you never know what a team can truly do until they actually do it. So that's kind of what we're looking at. If all I'll say is if the Canes can make it and make a big run this year, I mean, it just and the young guys have a huge impact. I mean, that just that shuts everybody up because everybody. I mean, because then you can't talk. Then everybody's talking about, all the pundits are like, oh, they're closing their window again. They're blah blah blah. The window was never open this year. Like, can we get some eyes that are like open for once with some of these pundits?
they watch 3 games in the
They watch
headlines,
they
and
watch 2 or 3
they
games a
expect to
year.
know the entire team and how they
Yeah.
function, and it's like, no, you
Yeah.
can't watch 3 games in the headlines. Like,
The
that's not
problem
how it
too,
works.
the problem too is like, can we get these odds makers to stop making Carolina one of the favorites to win the cup every
Yeah, it's
year?
so
Like,
dumb.
what the hell's going on? Like, that's how you know people don't actually watch the Canes. That's how you know. I don't understand how consistently. Now I understand maybe last
It's
year.
because we've finished the last 5 seasons over 100 points, so
Yeah, but
they
still,
just instantly, it's like, yeah.
But still, like, and again, but you never see really the Rangers on the top of that list, and they won the Presidents last year. So
yeah, it's more of a consistency thing, I think. In their
I don't know.
eyes.
Like I said, I just hope. And the Canes had a big drop off on their odds to win the cup, which is great. Thank you. Please just drop. That's fine. If everybody wants to doubt them, just go. It's fine. I'd rather it be that way.
Yeah, no, and that's what I said I have a separate little group chat with the guys at work that we follow they're all the big Canes followers and stuff. And I said, everybody's asking sort of, how does this impact us, and how do we come out of this? And oh my God, we lost Rantanen and this, that, and the other. I said, you know what, guys, now it's just time to shock the world. I was like, it's time to just take the guys that we got. They all want to be here, and let's just hammer down, foot to the floor, and let's go. And I agree with you. I think, Kyle, our success is going to be team defense and goaltending. I think that's going to be what's going to be critical for us to do. We did not see it against Boston. So there was I shouldn't say that. We didn't see team defense.
I was gonna say we saw some hell of a goaltending performance.
We saw great goaltending.
Yeah.
So you got to have one. It'd be awesome to have both, but you got to have great goal. I think goaltending is key. So
if we get that out of Kochetkov for the rest of the season,
he was brilliant against the Bruins. I mean, I almost felt bad for the Bruins because they really deserved to win that hockey game, and I think, but at the same time, we've been in that same scenario where we've absolutely outplayed somebody, and their goalie just stood on his ears and had 50 saves.
Nashville 2 years ago, we had 72 shots in a game and we lost 2-1.
It's bananas. So, but I agree. I think I like the construct of the team just because everybody wants to be here. Are we going to win the cup? I'll say never, but at the same time, we're not built. I don't think we're ready yet. I think we got the young core still has a little bit to learn to get there. But look, prove me wrong. I mean, I love to be sitting here, talking about the Stanley Cup Finals and how ironic would it be to play a team like Dallas in the Stanley Cup Finals? It would be awesome to see. Do I hope for it? Yes. Will it happen? Who knows? But anyways, I think the team. I like the team, and again, I don't want to overlook the Jankowski pickup because I liked him in Nashville. He's I think I like about him most is he's big.
Yeah.
And he gives us that big presence down the middle.
Penalty killer too.
Penalty killer
too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's 6'4", 212, left-handed shot. He's had some, and the thing that's good about him too is he's had some experience in the NHL. He's at 395 games, so he's not like he's a rookie that's played mostly American League games. He's been around a while, and
willing to fight too.
Yeah, and a college kid too. He didn't come out of the juniors. He came out of Hockey East. He was at Providence College, won the championship with them, so he knows how to win. And I think that's the key. He was all championship team for that winning team in Providence. So really like what he brings. He's gonna understand his role. He's a fourth line grinder. If we can get depth scoring out of him and that fourth line, all the better. So so excited to see what he can bring to the lineup.
Yeah. The other thing I do want to make note of too, we have more deadline acquisitions coming in, just haven't come in yet, because as of right now, I've been reading multiple sources that say there is a contract in place for Alexander Nikishin. The second his season is over, he is signed on a bird to Raleigh, North Carolina to join the team. Tulski basically, I forget where I read it, but he had done an interview where it was like, yeah, him, his
It was
agent, and
yesterday.
us are all in agreement. We're basically just waiting for his season to be done. So that's amazing news
That's good to
because
hear.
that's huge because all of a sudden now we always take the defensive superstars for granted in the league, but I genuinely think we're getting a defensive superstar. We look at Jacob Slavin and say he's a number one defenseman. I think we're getting another number one defenseman. So, like,
Is he right-handed?
we have, he's left-handed, unfortunately.
I wanted him to play with Slavin, unfortunately.
I know. Well, so he plays right D in Ska.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You know when he's coming here.
Yeah.
Rod's going to throw his head in the toilet and be like, left hand, right hand. We have to do it. So,
But at the end of the day, think about if you have an option at one and the first pair, second pair to have two number one defensemen on the left-handed side. I mean, that's pretty good.
Strong for sure.
That's really strong.
Yeah.
So you don't have to overwork Jacob Slavin. You don't have to overwork whoever is on that.
Depends
top
on
pairing.
who Jacob Slavin's partner is, but yeah.
No, I get it. No, I get it.
Well,
But
did you see
minute-wise?
Did you see last game, third period? It was Ghost and Burns, which was a god awful deep pair, but it was Ghost and Burns, and then Slavin and Walker.
Well, that was just out of necessity because
Stillman went down.
got hurt.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm saying for the full third period, Jalen Chatfield did not play, and the deep pairings were Sean Walker and Jacob Slavin, and it was Gostisbehere and Burns. They played the entire third period on pairs together because Chatfield literally didn't play the third.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
I was there. Oh, well, I was there.
I
wasn't.
It was so I shouldn't say he didn't play. He didn't play a single shift with Slavin. It was Sean Walker and Jacob Slavin the entire third period, and then Burns and Chatfield were kind of rotating through with Ghost as the second pairing.
Okay,
but it was Slavin and Walker the entire third, and they looked great. Every time they were on the ice, we actually looked halfway decent, and then it was like the other two went out there, and it was a damn chicken running around with its head cut off.
That's true.
Yeah, well, I talk about Jekyll and Hyde games though. Let's chat on off to Boston, but Detroit. I mean,
wait, hold on. Should we move to this, or should we go around the rest of the trade deadline real quick? Because I want to talk about some other teams as well too.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah,
we'll stick there for a second. So what other one? What other? I mean, no, there's a lot of sellers and a lot of buyers, and so who got infinitely better, or which trade do you want to talk about?
I mean, first of all, the team that got, I think, infinitely better was, if said thing is going to happen, Dallas got significantly better.
Yeah, I think so too.
You want to talk about, that's probably one of the best top nines in all of hockey history. I mean, their third line is most teams' first lines, I mean, their third line has Wyatt Johnson, Jamie Benn, and Tyler Seguin on it. That's some teams' first lines.
I know.
You put that on Chicago, and they're probably first line on Chicago, like.
Yep.
And that's Dallas's third line, and then all of a sudden your second line is Duchesne next to Marchment, and who's the other winger on that line?
Well, they had Rantanen slotted in there.
Yeah. Oh, I thought Rantanen's probably going to play with Robertson and Hintz, I would presume.
Rope Hintz, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw another one where they had him between Wyatt Johnson and Brian and Marchment. Not Marchment, but there was another winger on the second line.
I'm trying to think of who that other second line winger is. That's the one.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But I agree. They got great goaltending. I mean,
if they can't do it this year,
out?
Yeah, he's out, but he should make it back for playoffs. Supposedly.
Well, if they can't, that's the thing they've put themselves in a spot where they have to do it this year.
Granlund.
I think they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose quite a bit of guys in the offseason. I think they have quite a few.
So that's the scarier part, is that if you look at the core that's locked up for the next 8 years, it's here are the guys that are locked up for 5+ years under Dallas right now. It is, you have Jason Robertson, Rope Hintz, Wyatt Johnson, Mikko Rantanen, Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell, and Thomas Harley. They have 8 guys under 7-year-long contracts that are all studs. Like, all 8 of those guys are nasty.
Yeah.
I think though, don't they bump up against the salary cap issue next year?
I
They're
thought
going
they
to have
did
to dump
too.
a
They're
lot in
gonna
the
have to dump
offseason?
some stuff because they have
Yeah.
for next
the excess
season.
pieces.
Yeah.
Yes, the excess
Yeah.
pieces. So
Because
they're gonna
they're only paying like 2.3 for
Yeah,
Rantanen this
they're
year.
not.
yes.
So they're gonna be in some hurt next year for salary cap. But they're gonna have to trade some guys. They're gonna have to.
So
So,
if
so to your point, Cam, this is their year.
This is
If-
it
has
for them.
if-
Not it, but this is if they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
This has to be it. Like with the
So-
pieces they have.
Yes. So what the difference is next year they have 3 guys coming off of the book. One's Matt Duchene, another one is Tyler Seguin, and I believe the last one is Jamie Benn, actually. So those 3
Yeah.
guys come off the book.
But again,
One of
you
the-
lose those
one-
3 guys. I mean, those are 3 really big pieces to your lineup, especially the veteran presence from all 3 of those guys. I mean, Ben's been
Agreed.
there his whole life.
Agreed.
So-
But as of right now, with the salary cap moving to where it's supposed to be, they have to shed $4 million. So one of those 3 guys has to go. So you lose Matt Duchene and you bring up and then Wyatt Johnson becomes your
I think
second
Jamie
line
Benn
center.
leaves anyway. I
That's
think Jamie Benn's
again,
gonna
I
leave.
think I don't think they're in as bad a spot because we forget that in 2 seasons time, the salary cap's going to be up another $12 million from where it is right now. So all of a sudden that's all of Mikko Rantanen's contract just given back to the salary cap. So they're looking at the team right now versus the team in 2 years time. And they're like, oh, we got a ton of room. And that's where I think, I mean, Carolina made a very fair offer on Mikko Rantanen, and I'm actually kind of surprised. I would have fully suspected Carolina would have traded to get Mikko Rantanen in and offered him 11.5 or something so stupid. And then he would have walked and it'd have been like, okay, we're the cheap asses. But no, we offered him 13.5. Every team that's a contender, LA was going to offer him like 12.5. Colorado offered him 12.5. Dallas ended up getting him at 12. And so he wanted 14. He wanted to make the same as Draisaitl. And basically the league told him, you're not worth that. So him then going back to us and being like, okay, well, here's 13.5. We still had the most efficient offer on the table. Again, so as a Canes fan and as somebody that has to listen to us getting called cheap all the time, I don't feel like that was a cheap move at all. Like we made a legitimate offer, an year over $100 million contract. Can't say that we're cheap. Like we had it on the table, it was ready to go. And I suspect that same contract is going to be handed over to Mitch Marner with 1 less year in the offseason and say, here's $13.5 million. Please come join our team.
Yeah, I mean, but I definitely think Dallas did win the deadline.
Colorado and
Colorado as well.
3 winners basically in my
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah,
I put up 4. 3 winners in my eyes. It was Colorado, Florida, and Dallas. Those were the 3 main winners.
Florida. I don't know.
Florida's
iffy for me.
sort of an honorable mention
Yeah,
for me. But
they're kind
I
of on the
agree.
border for me.
Colorado got
better.
way
They
better.
did.
I
They're
totally
gonna be tough
agree.
to
But
beat.
Colorado was a first-round exit last year. Florida won the Cup last year. Florida didn't lose that
Yeah,
many
but
pieces in
Colorado
the
didn't have the
offseason.
team they got this year.
I
They
understand,
didn't
but-
have the goaltending. They didn't
Well-
have the defense. They didn't have the depth on forward end. I mean,
What I'm
they
saying-
shed a bunch of the guys that were basically paperweights there. They shed Georgiev. They shed Middlestat, who didn't really do anything for them at the end of the day. I mean, they lose Rantanen, which is a huge loss. But yes, they lose a guy like Rantanen, but they gained so much depth throughout their lineup. It's not even funny. They're probably my favorite to come out of the West. Honestly, I think they have a really good chance of beating Dallas if Blackwood can play well.
My biggest ad for them is going to be Charlie Coyle.
I think he's going to. I mean,
add,
they got Coyle, they got Brock Nelson, they got.
He's going to add.
Dude,
he's going to add
everybody.
some grit. He's going to add some grit to that game. That's going to grind it through the playoffs again. And I think that when you look back at, he's going to have his fingerprints all over a cup run for those guys if they do get deep.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the. And for me, that's one. I mean, I love the Brock Nelson pickup, but Charlie Coyle is he's a big, heavy centerman that
He's been playing the wing, but he definitely is a centerman.
But I think he can play both positions, and I think his heaviness to his game is where Colorado is going to really see the benefit from losing a guy like Mikko Rantanen. Is you don't get the heaviness of a Rantanen.
Yeah.
So,
so the only reason I was saying Florida is still a winner and a big winner in my eyes is because they won the Cup last year, so they really did not need to add that many pieces. What did they lose in the offseason? They lost Brandon Montour, which was their biggest loss. They ended up going back and getting Seth Jones, which is yes, maybe not a 1-for-1 ad, but I think Seth Jones playing a second D pairing, like minutes, probably an unreal defenseman, especially playing alongside somebody like that, whatever that big, tall defenseman is from Finland.
Oh, that Mikola.
Mikola.
Mikko
Yeah,
Mikola.
Mikko.
she's gonna play great next to Mikola. That's a
Yeah.
big, lengthy set of defensemen. I think they fix that issue, and then they go out and they add. What do we talk about playoffs? What do you need more than anything else? What is one thing that, yes, Colorado added some heaviness, but what did they not add? What are they missing? They're missing the bite. They're missing the nastiness. You look at Dallas. What are they missing? They're missing the bite. They're missing the nastiness. You're telling me that there's going to be a second line of Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk, and Brad Marchand on one line, and you're meaning to tell me that any team's going to get through that? Those guys are going to beat the brakes off of any team they come up against. Like, beat eyes shut. And I just, like, I think Colorado needed to do this, to make all those moves in order to be a genuine Stanley Cup contender again. Florida didn't need to make any moves to be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender again, and then they go and add Seth Jones and Brad Marchand. Two bona fide players. Like, yes, Seth Jones is a little bit less, but go ahead, Dan.
I think Florida for me, though, the only wild card for me, and I agree with you. I think they have every piece up front. They have the defensive core to do it. My only thing is it really depends on, because they got rid of Spencer Knight and they got rid of some of their
Exactly what I
goaltending
was
guys.
going to say.
And I said, so Bobrovsky, if he has a Bobrovsky Jekyll and Hyde run, if he's lights out, I agree they could win the cup.
What's to say he's not? Every single playoffs he's been in, he's been lights
I get
out.
it. Look, I get it. But I've seen him throw some turds in there that
In the regular season, yes.
He comes off his game. So
even in the
as
playoffs.
long as he keeps playing, to your point, keep playing the way he plays in the playoffs, then I think they're legit.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, they don't have much to go back to. I know they added a goaltender.
Yeah. Guess who?
But
Forgiev. Yeah, that's
they
going to
added
make the difference.
Gordon.
Oh, no, they added
so they didn't
Vanacek,
add-
sorry. Not
Yeah, I was
Forgiev.
going to say, I don't think
think
it was VTech.
I don't think they added much. They added a guy that was incrementally better than excuse me, Chris Drager, who they traded away to get Vanacek. So anyway, I agree. I like they increased the grit factor, and I do. I love the thought of Bennett, Tkachuk, and Marchand.
As long as they're not playing the Canes, because I just hope the Canes get eliminated before they have to play Florida, so that way we don't have to get injured before next season.
I mean, Sam Bennett's probably one of my favorite players.
He's a free agent this summer too. That would be a great second line center.
I
hate playing against him, but I love watching him play somebody else because it's so fun to watch just the way he plays.
He's a dog.
He plays it almost unemotionally, and it's like he's just like, I don't give a shit. I'm just going here.
Beats the brakes off you like it's his job, and it literally is his job. He just comes in, he does his job, and he goes home. He's
punched
like,
his teammate in the face.
Isn't he the one that poked Marchand and
punched him in the face?
Yeah,
he poked him with a fist.
He poked him with four knuckles right to the side of the head.
Now he's going to be his winger.
Yeah.
Well, I think they kind of they buried that hatchet. I think in the Four Nations, but still.
Yeah, I know. So anyways, okay. Well, let's
the one last thing on the final. I got it.
Yeah,
I got it.
Crying out loud.
No, this is just Carolina did want to make more moves yesterday. It was just we didn't have the salary cap space in order to make those moves because the Rantanen situation took so long. So guys that we wanted to get ended up getting already kind of dealt during that time. I.e., I fully suspect we were probably going to try and make a move on Brock Nelson.
Yeah.
Or Brad Marchand, but I think both of those guys had basically already gotten signed and figured out.
I think the Brock Nelson one is reality too, because I think that's why we got a guy like Jankowski because
we needed another center. Yeah,
we needed another centerman for sure that can play wing or can sort of a Swiss Army knife. I think that's what they called. That's what they called Brock Nelson.
Still
too.
surprised.
I think it was a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, I'm still surprised the Brock Nelson the Brock Besser thing didn't go through. I thought he was going to be one that they were going to go after, but it looks like Vancouver decided to hold on to him, basically, is what I'm understanding.
Yeah, it was a little bit of that, and also by the time basically we got the return, because the Rantanen trade, technically speaking, didn't go through until like 4:45 yesterday. So by the time it would have gone through, deadline was already over. So if he would have signed earlier in the day when he originally got the offer at like say 8 a.m. and been like, okay, yeah, that's a pretty decent offer. Let me go because I'm not going to stay in Carolina. Dallas is a good fit. This is where I want to be anyways. But instead, he waited, 6.5 hours to then sign the exact same fucking contract right before the deadline's over, and we
Now I
couldn't do
want to run all
anything.
over him now.
Yeah,
So,
but again, the contract didn't change a single dollar, and it was just the contract was offered at 8 a.m. and it took him until what 1:45 to sign the
It was like
fucking thing.
1:30 or something.
That's what pissed me off more than anything. It's like, so basically just kind of leaving us on an island where we couldn't do anything else because Mikko needed to get this shit done. Where I was like, fuck sakes, man. You really like that was the only part of it where like I get it. Guy doesn't want to play here. Fine. That's cool. It's 8 years of his life. I can't blame the guy. I wouldn't want to go somewhere for 8 years. I wouldn't want to go play in Edmonton for 8 years if I was one of the best players in the world. Maybe not. Edmonton was a terrible choice because who the fuck wouldn't want to go play with Connor McDavid? But like, you know
I
what
don't
I'm
wanna
saying?
live in
Like,
Edmonton.
I wouldn't want to go play in Buffalo. Like, I wouldn't want to live there. Like, that's just not where I would want to be for 8 years. Like, just no chance. I get it's an NHL contract, but if I had a choice, that's not where I want to be. So I
Yeah.
get it. But to hold it up the whole process when you end up signing the same contract, that's what kind of, because I think Carolina originally was going to end up flipping those two first for maybe a Pedersen or a Besser or again, a Brock Nelson or a Brad Marchand or somebody along those lines. And we just could never get anything else done.
mm-hmm.
I think Tulski, a learning mistake here. Maybe figure out if the guy's going to re-sign before you bring him over. That's the only thing that I think he probably fucked up on in this whole thing. But again, he could have been told that he was interested in re-signing, and then when he got here, he was like, never mind, I'm really not that interested in re-signing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So anyways, so I'll ask one question. Kyle, do you have anything else?
No, that's sorry.
Okay.
While we're on the trade still, I just wanted to get
I'm just giving you a hard time. Come on. I'm just giving you a hard time. So,
I know.
So anyway, so let's take a spin on the two games that we had prior to our last episode. I think we had Detroit on Tuesday night and then
Boston Thursday.
Boston on Thursday night. Yeah, the Jekyll and Hyde games. I mean, the Detroit game was as clean a game and quick and fast, and I mean, I think it was probably Taylor Hall's best game of the season.
Yeah, he played out his life.
He had his fingerprints all over that hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think Freddie played well. I think just in general, our team defense was really good. Probably could have scored a handful more goals, but at the same time, their goalie played well.
Mm-hmm.
And but then Thursday night was an absolute train wreck. Other than Kochakov,
other than the fact that we won.
Yeah, I mean, we
won both games.
We just
in different ways.
I mean, we didn't deserve to win the game, but we won the game. So we didn't deserve to win the game, but we got 2 points. So
we goalied somebody for the first time in a long
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm hoping the consistency comes back to where, because that Detroit game was really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was an absolute track meet. Detroit's a good team. They're well coached. They have good core pieces. We outworked them in that game. We outchanced them, and I think it was fun. It was really fun to watch that hockey game.
Yeah.
And then I was totally disgusted in the Thursday night game, watching it in person. So, but let's see what they bring tomorrow. I hope. I hope it's Tuesday night effort.
They're gonna have to.
And I think a big piece of that's going to be, I think the locker room has a chip on his shoulder now. This is the, quote unquote second superstar to walk out in 2 years. Granted, the Gensel one was just, I think Gensel wanted to be here, just we didn't have the space for him. So, and it sucks. I think we should have moved something out in order to make space for him. But, especially now looking at it, because it seems like Aho sometimes struggles to find chemistry with players, and that was one of those ones where Gensel came in and was a click instant fit. Like it was very surprising, and especially now that looking at how the Rantanen one ended up going out. But I'm really excited to see how this team responds, because I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a fold up and die kind of response. I think that this is going to galvanize the group, and Man, if you look at the identity of a Rod Brindamore team, it's always been kind of an underdog, work your bag off, Columbus Blue Jacket style hockey, that kind of sense where like the way they're playing this year. And I think our team just got a little bit closer to that. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more, I'll call it quote unquote boring to watch because I don't think we have as much skill without Rantanen or without Natchez. But you also are going to have some you're going to have less mistakes. You're going to have, a more cohesive game because guys aren't going to be trying to kind of do their own thing to create offense. And yes, while the offense is going to be the struggle, I think we're going to finally see a team that's all on the same page. And I think you saw everybody outside of Rantanen kind of working to get towards that same page. I think there was just, as bad as it sounds, a slight cancer in the locker room where it was Mikko didn't want to be there. It was quite evident from day one when he didn't stay with Aho when he was requested. Aho offered him a place to stay, and he's like, "Nah, I'll stick at the hotel." Um, Ever since then, yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of writings on the wall. So it was more of a, hey, fresh start. Let's, we got 20 games left. Let's see how we do, man. Let's get on
Yeah.
a little roll here.
Yep. Yep. So before we hop to the kind of the end of the show, I do have a question for you guys. And I know you've been through this in your playing careers. Um, how did the Canes themselves, do they play differently in front of Freddie or Kochetkov? I mean, from the system. I mean, because I know you both have played in front of different goaltenders, and you can say that you don't, but you do. You play differently in front of different goaltenders. So do you see that in the Canes? Do they play differently, even though they're playing Rod system? Yes, but do they play differently in front of each one of the goalies?
In all honesty, I might be a little brutal in my answer. I don't think we've played consistent enough this year to have any sort of say in whether we're playing better in front of one goalie or the other. Because in all honesty, you look at the Bruins game and we played terrible in front of Kochetkov, and then you go back to the Edmonton game last week. Oh, Edmonton was Anderson. What was the other game where we? I just in my mind, it's like some games we play really good in front of Freddie, and some games we play like shit in front of Freddie. That Edmonton game's a perfect example versus the Detroit game with Freddie. Against Detroit, I thought we had a pretty much picture perfect game. I thought everything looked as it should. We could have easily won probably 5-1, but we just didn't. Where against Edmonton, we end up losing the game. I didn't think we played particularly well, and Freddie Anderson's the starting goaltender for both games. Again, I just think that if we were a consistent team, then you can be like, okay, where are the kinks? Do we really play different in front of one versus the other? If like every single time Freddie was in net, we played lights out, and every time Coach Edkov was, we didn't, that'd be a different story. But I think it's just any given night. You go back 2 weeks ago, Freddie got lit up for 4, and the next night Coach Edkov got lit up for 4. So just like we just aren't.
Yeah.
We just we don't play. I don't know. I don't know if that really gives you an answer, but I just don't think we've even played consistent enough to be like, oh, we play better in
Yep.
front of one versus the other.
Yeah.
I think generally for most teams, that's probably the case. They probably play better in front of one goalie versus the other. Especially teams that have like a bona fide starter. Like I guarantee Florida plays better in front of, or I'm sorry, different in front of Bobrovsky than they would with, well, now it's Vanacek. So they're probably going to play a little more
Hellebuck.
conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hellebuck's the same way.
in Winnipeg. That team plays so different in front of Hellebuck than they do in front of
I don't know.
Brossoit,
I mean, the
or
Brissois is
whatever
good.
the other guy is.
I mean, but in like, I compare it the way the Canes play kind of in front of either goalie to like in Edmonton. Edmonton's kind of just up and down all over the place, and then their goaltending is kind of one game the guy, one of the guys really hot, like when Pickard was playing against the Canes, he was lights out. He was their best player. And then, some games it'll be Stuart Skinner that does the same thing. And it just depends on kind of the game with them. Some teams are like that. Some teams it's like, hey, we got our guy in the net. We know we can take some risk and some chances because if we, end up getting an odd man rush the other way because of the chances we're taking, he's going to bail us out. So
Yeah.
I think overall, I think it just depends on the team. But for the Canes specifically, yeah, I don't think it matters who's in net. It's just consistency for the team that needs to be kind of corrected before anything.
Yeah, Cam made a great point there. I think, teams with like Shesterkin versus Quick in net for New York, I think the team plays slightly. That's fair, yeah,
they're
one.
both crazy good.
But, like,
I think
yeah.
both goalies, they have one of the best tandems in the NHL right now.
To be honest
honestly.
with you, Dad, I think when Anderson was hurt, Carolina played different in front of Kochetkov versus whoever his other goalie
Yes,
was. But
versus Jankowski or Martin.
because they're both kind of 1A, 1B, I don't think it really changes it that much. But yeah, you go again, I agree with Cam. You go look at like a team that has a bona fide number one, like Dallas. The team plays so much different in front of Ottinger versus I don't even know who the backup is in Dallas right now. But
No
yeah,
idea.
it's just whenever the goalie plays 60 plus games this season, then it makes a difference. But if it's a 1A, 1B situation, clearly they trust both goalies enough. Like kind of like New York. New York Islanders don't play any different, or the Rangers really don't. I guess that was a bad team for me to have picked originally, but
So here's a follow-up then. So when you do that 1A, 1B and you kind of do that rotation, is that helpful or does it hurt you heading into the playoffs? Because I think you don't have enough, you don't get the guy you don't build up enough confidence in one or the other. So do you have a better result or deeper run in the playoffs if you have a 1A, 1B? Or I mean, I guess Swayman and Allmark did it
yeah. But
for
how
the Bruins,
far did they get in the playoffs?
but they went with Swayman.
How far did
They
they get
kinda
in the playoffs too? They've
no,
made
I
it into
get
the
it.
first round each year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's really my point with Kochetkov and Freddie. At some point, do we need to pull the switch and say, "Okay, you're our starter,"
Okay, so
and
do
then
you think Kochetkov is a starter?
that's my question to you guys. I don't really know. I think you have to figure out which guy that you think can take you deepest into the playoffs. You know, if he's healthy, I think it's Freddie.
Yeah, if he's
Again,
healthy.
that's the issue is you can't run
Yeah.
Freddie to
No, I
if you
get it.
if
I
you
do.
were
That's the
running him
problem
like
too.
a number one, a true number one, and he's playing 6 out of 7 games, he's gonna get hurt before playoffs even
100%,
start. So that's why I
100% agree.
asked the question: do you think Kochetkov can be an out and out number one? Because
I
if
don't
not,
I
then it's
don't
got to be a
know.
1A, 1B situation.
No, I get it. I don't know. At this point, I don't know. But I don't know if we've run him in enough games. I think he consistently over, 4 or 5 games in a row, he tends to fall off after a game 4 or 5.
See, the way I look at it is like I think Freddie is more of the skilled goaltender, just like clinical post to post positioning. I think he's a more clinical goaltender overall. Where I think Kochetkov has an advantage is the compete level of that goaltender. And we've seen Kochetkov in 2 starts in the playoffs against the Bruins in his first season, basically. And that's all the extent we've seen of Kochetkov in the play. Actually, no, he played 2 games last year as well. 1 game last year. He only played 1 game and he won the game. And then we went right
Yeah, it
back to
was too
Freddie.
late.
Yeah, we went
Yeah, it
right
was
back
too
to
late.
Freddie the next game,
Yep.
which I don't get at all. He won the game previous. But in my eyes, I think Kochetkov is a lot like Bobrovsky. I think regular season Bobrovsky is kind of, he has his really good games and he has his kind of okay games, and then he has his bad games where he lets up some soft goals. But then you put Bobrovsky in playoffs, you want to talk about just a guy that competes his ass off. That Bobrovsky in playoffs comes around, that dude competes. He works hard. He just wants to win so bad. That's where I see Kochetkov too. It's yeah, maybe the skills aren't 100% to the same par as Freddie, but man, if you're asking me which guy is going to give me the outright best chance to make it far in the playoffs, yeah, Freddie can do it. He's made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but then you come up against a guy who's willing to beat you. Just that's what Bobrovsky's willing to do. He's just willing to beat you. And I think that Kochetkov has that same tenacity in him to where, like, man, if he gets on a roll and he play like you look at him playing against the Bruins, if he played that way every single game in playoffs,
Yeah.
shit, we might make it to the finals.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think that was the reason for the question is that I I think they're the 1A, 1B thing. I think that the only troubling point about it is excuse me, when you get into the playoffs. I think that's when it really gets
You can't do it. I don't think you
problematic.
can do it in playoffs.
No, you can't, and I don't think you can. And I think it's pretty obvious with some of the early exits from some of the teams that do it. So anyways, so we'll see. Hopefully, we'll be having this discussion deep in the playoffs, and we'll either have a number one or we'll prove the point that the 1A 1B can work for a deep playoff round. So we'll see what happens at that point. So well, we're at the 1 hour mark, so I guess we need to head into the final stretch of what
We're at the
we're going to
technically
talk about
speaking
this week.
50-minute mark, but yes.
Okay, well,
I started recording before.
Thanks for the on-air correction,
Yes,
you little
yes.
shit.
Oh, I can cut it out. What are we talking about?
I know.
Am I
I
going
know.
to? No, but I
No,
can.
I know you're not. I know you're not. So anyway, so we had Cam and I had we got to watch the girls for the takeover tour. Came into Raleigh last night. The Minnesota Frost played the Ottawa Charge in a PWHL game, and I tell you, I think both Cam and I are real surprised at the pace of the play, the skill. Minnesota for sure had the more skilled players, no doubt. They had oh gosh, I forget her name, Coyne Schofield, whatever. I can't remember her first name, but
Kendall.
she's Kendall. Yes, she was. I mean, she looked like
She's the best player on the ice.
She looked like Logan Stankoven.
Yeah,
I mean,
she was the best
just
player on the ice,
fast.
and it wasn't close.
She was so fast.
Hey, can I ask you a question, Dad? Because
Sure.
I talked to Cam about this earlier, and then which of those two teams would you say is first, and which one of those two teams would you say is sixth in the PWHL?
Well, I think but I looked at their standings this morning, and it looked like they were kind of in the middle of the pack, both of them.
Oh, sorry, but which one? Yeah, are you sure? Because they said on the feed last night Ottawa was fighting for first in the PWHL.
They not sure. Maybe they have different divisions, but there's only 6 teams, I believe. And I thought when I looked this morning, and I could be wrong, I could have looked at some archive data, but they were like both, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, what the
Both
fuck?
teams.
They were lying on the air. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
So, but Minnesota for sure was the more skilled team.
For sure.
Yeah. And the Ottawa team was more physical. They were more gritty. That was their style. And I think their goalie had a tough start. But the crowd, I mean, we had just under 11,000 people at the game.
I was
So
fully
it was
expecting it to be sold out. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, it was they had the second tier and only the second tier and the first tier open. They didn't open the third tier. But it was just it was really it was a really fun game to watch. And I kind of jokingly said to you, the best part about going to a women's hockey game is that the line at the men's bathroom was not even existent.
That is true.
So it was awesome. We got you get in, you get out, you're done.
Yep.
Whereas at a Canes game, it's like 4 hours to you miss the second period because you're trying to use the bathroom. But for the most part, I thought the ladies played exceptionally well. It was a fun game to watch. Goaltending was good. All around, I think they've done a nice job. And I think, this takeover tour is really helping to build the brand outside of the traditional markets they have it in now. I guess I'll call it the original 6 they have now.
Yeah, the one thing I really like to see, and I've watched it on TV, is they allow them to play. Like they can be physical, they can kind of throw their weight around a little bit, and that is exactly what the game needs. The girls want to hit. We want to watch them hit. Like it's part of the enjoyment of the game is the physicality. Yeah. It's like you want that piece of it, and I love the fact that they went away from they didn't do IIHF rules where any contact is a 2-minute minor. Like just let them play. And I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found out the rule there, Kim, on there's no trapezoid in the PWHL.
There's not. Okay.
Yeah, because I looked it up because I had that question last night. If the rules are the same as the NHL or different.
They are different. They have the jailbreak rule in the PWHL too. Did you hear about that rule?
No, I did not. I didn't read that one.
So on a penalty kill, if the PK team scores a goal, the penalty is null and void. So they come out of the box and it's the end of the power play.
Really?
So if you score a shorty, you release the player.
I think that should be a rule in the NHL.
I like
that.
It's not a bad rule.
That's a cool rule. It really makes you. It really would emphasize a team that's really good on scoring on the penalty
kill. Taking chances, and also taking chances on a penalty kill.
It would make it more. I think that'd be great. On it. But you talk about like any team
swinging a game on its head.
Well, that's what I mean. Like you talk about like teams now are gonna they would have to focus on building their team around the power play because they're like we cannot get scored on because if they score on us, then we lose the power play and they just scored. So
and they got all the momentum
swing. Yeah, exactly. So
I like it.
They also do the 3-2-1 point standing as well too. So
Yeah, I think
I
the
think
NHL
that
needs to
come
adapt
the
that.
NHL.
That needs
I
to come
agree with
back
that totally.
for
I don't
sure.
think it was ever here. I think, but I totally agree. I think that needs to be the point system, because it would entice people to win the game in regulation. Which, shit, I do agree. I love overtime. I love 3-on-3 overtime.
I do.
But think about how big some point swings would be in
Oh, yeah.
and we really, I guess they went back, and I forget who did it, but it was post after the Four Nations. They went back and they did the playoff standings for the past 3 or 2 seasons and where it would match up. The only team that was in a different position was Boston, and that was just because last season they had like 42 overtime
They
games or
literally went to
something
overtime every
ridiculous. They went to
game.
overtime
Yeah, it's
half the
crazy. I
season.
know.
So outside of them, that were the only team that dropped in the standings, but everybody else was pretty much in their same exact spot. But I just think, man, it puts more emphasis on winning it in regulation. So it's like
Yep.
you don't have the luxury of just piling it out to overtime. We wouldn't see the Islanders in the last 2 minutes of the game on the power play rag the puck to get it to overtime. Like it just like
Yep.
it would. I think it would give more to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and I think they should do it. I mean, but who the hell knows? I don't know if the traditionalists don't want that, but at the same time, I think it adds a different dimension. Hell, they changed a lot about the game.
Yeah.
So adding the shootout, adding all this stuff for
Either that
the fan
or just
experience, but
get rid of the shootout and just leave it at a tie. I'd rather it be left at a tie. Each team gets 1 point. Call it a
Yeah,
day.
shootouts
I
sucks.
don't disagree with you.
I'm not an enjoyer, and maybe that's just because the Canes aren't ever very good at
Canes
the
suck.
shootouts. They're so bad at shootouts.
If we had Nikita Kucherov on our team,
it doesn't
we'd probably
matter.
be like, nah,
it doesn't
leave the
matter
shootout in, leave
who
it
you
in.
have, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think they should go back to that. But overall, the PWHL game was good. I thought I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It's definitely, and you have to and anybody who is going to go watch it that has never seen a PWHL game or has never been to either a women's college hockey game or like an international game, it's different. It is different. It's a different game than the NHL. So if you go into the mindset of like, okay, these are my expectations, like this is, I'm used to watching the Canes play run and gun, blowing guys up all over the ice. That doesn't happen. It's a different game. So as long as you adjust the way that you want to view it, like what you're finding enjoyment out of. And for me, that was finding out, okay, who's the best player out here? Like who is the most dominant player out here? And again, it was the captain for the Frost. She was so good. I mean, she could slot in on a lot of men's teams, for some of the pro sides of it. So no, I think it was a lot of fun. It's good to see. The atmosphere was way different too, for sure. I mean, it was way different. It just was. It's just a different environment. So, but yeah, like I said, it was a lot of fun. I definitely would go again if they ever come back. I'll definitely go again for sure.
Yeah, the way I look at it, and I see them. They have NHL skill, just without the power. It's just there's a power difference in everything. Which again, it's not a slight on them. It's not a slight on anything. It's still a wonderful game. It was super entertaining to watch. Every game that I've seen so far has been super entertaining. I watch Boston Fleet on a pretty regular basis just because it's on all the local channels. They're a fun team to watch, but they all have NHL level skill. It's just they're not quite as fast. They're just not quite as strong with their shots. Some of the passes are just a little bit softer. The game is a little slower just due to it's a little less powerful, but the skill is all there. I mean, I totally agree. You watch, I forget what goal. I think it was, I'm not sure if Kendall scored it or she got the assist off of it, but she comes in, she holds the puck left side, cuts all the way through the defender, pulls it out wide. I can't remember if she scored on it, but she just blew past the defender and goes all the way through on goal. And it's like the skill is all there. And that part of it is not, there's not a difference in that level. It's just, there's the slight ever power difference in that regard. Like if you were to put these girls' brains and their skill and their ability into a 6'2", if you put Kendall Schofield into you put her into Stankoven's body, she's on 99.9% of NHL teams.
That's what I mean.
Like that's where it's at. The game is really good. There's
Mhm.
just a slight ever difference in
Yeah,
power.
it's different. So
Yeah.
again, if you go in with the mindset like this is going to be a different type of environment, a different type of game,
Yep.
then again, you'll have a good time. But
Mhm.
again, if you walk in expecting, like I want it to be just like when I watch my favorite NHL team, you're probably not going to have a good time because your expectations are not going to be there.
Yep.
So, but again, it's a lot of fun. I really, like I said, I definitely will go again. If they ever come back, I'll go again for sure
Mhm.
because it was really fun to watch. And like I said, I don't have any gripes with it. Like and Kyle was right as well. I fully expected it to be sold out. I'm actually surprised that they didn't sell
I was
out.
really shocked that it wasn't sold out, honestly.
I am too. So I don't know. And they had it on a prime night too. It was on a Friday night. It's not like it was during a weekday.
Mm.
I don't know if it was. I don't really know what it was or why it wasn't
Well
sold out. Honestly.
well, I think a lot of it comes down to we'll kinda go back to when the Canes came here. I mean, it was an unknown,
That's
and
true.
I think they did a lot of good to market it. I think they did a really nice job to market it to get it to the point where you had almost 11,000 butts in the
That's true.
stands, and I think so they did a really nice job. I was I was not expecting it to be sold out, and I think what it did though is it built the awareness with the local community that, I saw a lot of dads and daughters sitting in
Yeah.
stands. I saw a lot of youth hockey girls teams from different areas, from Winston-Salem, from Greensboro, from Wilmington,
Yeah.
and so there was all kinds of community that came in to watch this hockey game, and they said they really did a nice job about, you know, catering to the female fan and the young girl fan. They really did a nice job because where you'd get all the music they played and the all of that stuff is
The
really
atmosphere
catered.
is different. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like going to a Metallica concert for an NHL game to a Taylor Swift concert for the
Yeah.
PWHL
For
game.
sure. No, that's
It was
and
that different.
yeah. And again, it's not better or worse. It's just different.
No, it's just
It's
different.
just different. And again,
Yep.
if you go in with a
It's
closed mind and you go in with like I want it to be this way and you're just, foot in the sand kind of thing, you're going to have a bad time. Just
Yeah.
don't go, save the ticket for somebody else who wants to be there.
Yep.
So that's kind of been that was my 2 cents on the whole thing. I
Yep.
really enjoyed it though. I thought it was
I did.
I
I
thought
had
it
a
was a
great
lot of
time.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only reason I was saying kind of more that I was shocked, I guess it really does make sense. The girls hockey program in North Carolina is growing.
Mhm.
Just every other PWHL takeover that has gone on has
Yeah.
been a completely sold out crowd.
That's
They've
that's
done
why
it in
I'm surprised too.
Colorado. They did it in where else have Colorado, Nashville, I think got a game as
Mhm.
well too. They were completely sold out. I think Florida's getting one at the end of the year. They're going to be, I think they're already completely sold. That was where I was surprised. It was more or less of like, I think every single youth girl went to that game in the local area. None of the Canes fans seem to go to the game too. Like we sell out the PNC Arena every single night for the Canes games. We've sold out 100 straight nights, and I guess more or less just a little shocked that it didn't sell
Mhm.
in that
Yeah.
regard because every other one has completely. So granted, those are bigger
Yeah.
cities, but and more girl programs, probably more well established, more
Yeah.
players inside of those. Because the women's hockey in North Carolina is, while still it has been there for a while, it's been very select age groups that have had teams, and it's kind of
Mhm.
been like one age group which kind of keeps the team going up, and then there's not really a filling group behind them to fill the teams in. Now we're starting to have youth programs that have
Mhm.
age groups from 6 all the way up to U19. That's going to continue to develop the game. Again, was more just shocked due to how well the takeovers have done in every other city. Like
Mhm.
I was surprised there wasn't more of a kind of, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but like a culture drive to really
Yeah.
sell that out for more of the what's going on in the world today
Yeah.
type of feeling.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, and is that it's sort of sandwiched in between a Thursday night Hurricane game and a Sunday Hurricane game. So for those people that are going to, because the ticket price wasn't inexpensive, but it can, if you already have, say, tickets, you're already buying tickets, you already spent the money, there may be a limited money factor there too. So
100%.
So, not to say that that's the reason, but I think, if maybe if they do that game during the Four Nations
I was just
when
about to
there's no
say,
hockey,
if that
Yeah,
was during
that's
if there's
Four
true.
no
Nations,
hockey,
Yeah.
yeah.
then it would have been an opportune time for really promote it, saying boys are taking the week off. Let's support the women.
Yeah.
Let's support the women's hockey. So, we'll see. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. If you haven't gone to one, go to one in person. It's a lot of fun. It's a really fun
It
environment.
is, yeah.
I know Dundon has made I believe a request with the PWHL at least inquiring about what it would take in order to get a team in the area as well too. We were looking, I think all of the teams that they're doing, or all of the cities they're doing takeovers with, are all serious contenders for the new expansion. They're doing 2 teams next season. I want to say 2 more the following season,
Oh,
and then
really?
2 more the season after that.
That's good.
So
Yeah.
they're expanding quickly. The only
I'm
and
concerned about that a little bit, but
Yes, there's
sure.
some concerns for me because it's like, okay, that you have good quality right now. I'm more scared. Does the and I don't want to. I'm scared that it might grow too quickly, kind of like the WNBA did, where right at the start, when the WNBA was a really tight, small league, it had some good games and there was some good quality games, and then it got spread really thin. Where now I think they have 20 plus cities in the WNBA, and I just don't think it's starting now with, you look at all the college girls, they're all nasty now. And it's like,
Yeah.
really enjoy it. But it's starting because they expanded and they got on into all these local cities. So I get that portion of it. But for the growth of the league and the continuation of it being a big market kind of ordeal, I'm a little worried that the quality will lack a little bit for the first couple years if they expand too quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And
agreed.
and that, if they expand too quickly and they kind of undersaturate the skill on every team and the competitiveness of each game, then it's going to cause people to not want to go because they don't want to see, a game that's 10-0 kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
and then it's going to cause the money not to come in anymore, and it's going to cause the league to fold. And that's the last thing we want to happen is we don't want the league to fold. So
I want them
you
to have
need
a really good, strong base before
yeah,
they
they need to
start
have
pushing.
they need to have like a base to where it's like you want to see it to where like every team has like every player is like,
superstar
oh
team.
my god, they're crazy. That's what you that's what you really want, because when you're at that point, that means you're leaving really really good players
at home.
Yeah. Which again, if you're at that point, add 2 teams a year, because then you have the pipeline to be able to bring in the players that are good enough to fill in those teams. So that's, again, I like that they're expanding. I do. I just hope whoever the ownership group is of the league itself I'm sure they're well aware of this. They're way smarter than I am. So I just hope, again, they do it in a fashion that's not going to jeopardize the integrity of the league itself.
Yeah.
I hope
I
the
think-
expansion doesn't lead to the folding of the league.
think-
That's what I don't want to happen.
Yeah, I think their counterpoint to that is like, okay, yeah, maybe the attendance draws right away aren't the biggest in some of these new cities, but what it will bring in is more girls wanting to play the game because they see it in their home.
That's
They
true.
see it in their front door. It's like, oh, these girls are playing professional hockey. They're making a living off of this. That's awesome. I want to start playing hockey now. So maybe in a kind of the same way the WNBA did it, where, yeah, the attendance maybe not great for the first 10 years of the league, but then after that, you start building a real legitimate system of girls that want to play the game because they see it as a viable option for a career, where right now, maybe it's not a viable option because as of right now, 6 teams times 20 players on each team, 120 players in the league altogether. So there's 120 jobs right now, where all of a sudden it opens up to 200 jobs, 300 jobs. It's like some girls are like, oh, now there's a better chance I actually make it in there. Let me, work hard. Let me try and get a D1 scholarship. I know they're expanding Division I women's programs as well, too. I believe there are 3 being added this year. So again,
That's good.
really good things in that regard. I think there's a fine balance between expanding too quickly and not expanding quick enough to where you're not really building the base, because in these cities, I bet you they have seen a massive growth in the women's programs. In Minnesota, it's probably grown as much as it probably could. I think there's already huge, same kind of with Toronto and Ottawa. There's probably already and Montreal. There's Boston. Any of the original 6 teams is already a huge women's kind of presence in that area already. But I think you're seeing the numbers increase in all those
Yeah.
areas.
Yep. So, anyways, we'll take one final spin around the horn here to see what final comments you may have,
I was
Kyle.
gonna say let's maybe 3 stars and then we'll call it.
Okay, so we'll close with that. And I'm not going to go first because I don't want to. And so I'll let's see. Let me go to Kyle. I went with Cam first last week.
All right. So my third star of the week, just because you know what? I think team defense took a massive step forward. I think this guy is the reason why our team defense takes steps forward every single week, and I think he's the best defensive defenseman in the world. So my third star of the week is going to be Jacob Slavin. Again, I think when he was on the ice versus Boston, the offensive chances digressed. We didn't play well. Nobody could put a pass together, but we didn't give up at many great A's. I thought against Detroit, he was phenomenal. I mean, they didn't get much, and that was because Jacob Slavin shut 90% of it down. And there was a whole highlight tape of just how good Jacob Slavin was against Detroit. So if you can put a highlight package together for defensive plays, that means you had a hell of a night, because it's kind of hard to get highlights for defensive plays sometimes. So he'll be my third star of the week. Second star, and I think it's right there. I think he had a kind of a garbage can night on Thursday, but I think Tuesday he was one of our better players. And I think you maybe put him on a line with Aho, and maybe that's the change up. And all of a sudden, I think he can kind of be our prolific goal scorer. But Taylor Hall, I thought Tuesday he was fucking lights out. I think he did everything but score. And I want to say that scoring touch is going to be right around the corner. I hope it is. I think you put him maybe with a guy like Aho and Stankoven, all of a sudden he might be, on pace to put up 40 in a season. You never know. He's done it before. So he's a first overall pick. He can do it. So maybe that's the key piece that we might need. So he's going to be my second star of the week. And then my first star of the week is going to be another combination. The Hurricanes goaltending. I thought Tuesday night, Freddie looked great. He kept, 2-1 game. We weren't scoring any goals. We couldn't give up more than 2. Or we couldn't give up more than 1. He kept it at 1. All we can ask from him. And Kochetkov was the only reason we won the Boston game. So Hurricanes goaltending getting the first star for me. Both guys will get 3 points in the standings for me. But yeah, that will be my 3 stars for the week.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I think with some of your with at least one. I'm kind of on the fence here because, like, I feel like Slavin could always be on this list. Like he could always
have a
be,
permanent
because
spot on this list.
he really doesn't take any games off. So I'm gonna leave him as an honorable mention only because he always does it and he could always be on this list. So
I know we just don't put him on here enough.
No, I know. I mean, like I said, but he's always there. Like he's always one of the top 5 guys on the team at all times, no matter what, if not one of the best. So, the only reason I'm going to leave him off is because I think Hall had a really good game. I'm going to put him. I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here. I'm going to put Blake at number 3. I think Jackson Blake has really showed that he can play with anyone, anywhere. You can kind of put him in any situation and he's going to adapt.
He's a water bug.
I think he's been snake bitten with scoring for sure. He could have, I can't, for how many chances he's created for himself and for other people, he could be at the top of the Calder running right now if he wasn't as snake bitten as he is. I mean, I can't tell you how many, he's probably the only guy that's had as many chances, literally sitting in front of the net and just can't score, as many as anybody else on the team.
If him and Rantanen had connected, if he could score, Rantanen would have had 10 points in his first 4 games.
He would have been off to the
races. Because Jackson Blake
he
would have had 10 goals because there was 10 backdoor tap-ins that he had where it just didn't go in. Granted, put Jarvis up there and they didn't go in either. So maybe, I don't know.
But no, I think Jackson Blake number 3 for me. I think number 2 for me is Hall. I think Hall had a great game on Tuesday. He did score on Thursday. They just called it off because Roslovic was offside. So, he's there. He's right there. And I think he's going to be a really good depth piece for the Canes as far as depth scoring goes. And number one, I mean, the goaltending tandem was lights out both Tuesday and Thursday. So they both played well. They both played how they needed to play, and that's how the Canes need them to play the rest of the season, because our defensive core, I guess you want to call it, outside of, probably 2 or 3 guys, there's 3 guys that are struggling right now. 2 more than the other one, but
who's your other one? I'm curious.
I don't think Ghost has been that great.
He's not been
So
very
who
good.
are your two? Oh, Burns and Orlov. Never mind.
Burns and
Sorry.
Orlov
Okay.
are,
Sorry. I was like, is it Walker or Chatfield? I was like, those two guys have been great.
No, Walker and Chatfield have been great.
Yeah.
I think, and just a quick point here, but I think Chatfield kind of has that same syndrome on defense that Kokoniemi gets on offense, where if something goes wrong, he just gets booted. He's the guy out,
Yeah.
He's the guy that gets booted down the lineup, which is unfortunate because I think Burns and Orlov should be the guys getting booted down the lineup, but they make too much money. So I digress. But those are my 3 for the week. And yeah, I definitely think the goaltending tandem deserves the number 1 for me.
Yep. I think Cam, ditto. Your 3 are my 3. I think the goaltending tandem was absolutely lights out in both games. And I think Taylor Hall had his fingerprints all over the Detroit game. He was in every zone. He was exceptional. And then again, Blake on that line. I like I said, he's from this. I'm going to fanboy him here because early on in the season, he's going to be an exceptional player. He already is, but he's going to get even better. And that's the scary part.
That's scary. Yeah. This is his rookie season.
Because he's going to get better when he gets a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger, more developed. But I think the other guy, again, Slavin, you could put him on the list every week. But I think the guy that can get the honorable mention for me is Sean Walker. I think he was really good in the Detroit game. He was really good, and he was one of our better defensemen in the Boston game. What I love about him is his activation. He gets into the play. He's good defensively in his own zone. He's a lesser version of a Jacob Slavin, but he plays a very similar game where maybe Slavin's not as offensively. He doesn't activate as offensively often, I guess. But I think I'm going to give him the honorable mention this week. But those, again, I agree with you. Those are my 3 as well.
I think he next season will be playing alongside Slavin on the top pairing.
Yeah, it'd be awesome, man. Have Nikishin on the second pairing with whomever on the right-hand side.
I think it's going to be Slavin, Walker, Nikishin Ghost, or not Nikishin Chatfield, and then it's going to be Morrow with some other left-handed shot defenseman. I don't think we bring Ghost back next season.
Yeah, he's really struggled. He's really struggled in the Boston game. He was like a turnover machine.
Is Ghost a UFA at the end of the year? I think he only signed a 1-year
I don't
deal.
know. I thought. So I don't know, honestly.
No, Ghost has signed for another 2 years. I think he signed a 3-year deal.
Oh,
yeah.
I think Walker was a 5. I believe
Walker was a
5.
6. I thought
maybe. I don't know.
Maybe 5 after this year.
Maybe, yeah. But either way, I mean, we know Orlov's gone after this year. There's no way the Canes re-sign him. I'm, pray to whatever God you pray to that the Canes don't re-sign Burns, because if they do, rinse and repeat of this year, because it's going to get ugly next year. I'm telling you right now, it's going to get ugly.
Yep.
So, because again, there is a guy that's playing in the AHL right now that deserves to be on this Canes team, that the only reason he isn't is because Burns is still here. Like that's the truth. So at the end of the day, if he doesn't get a call up next year from the Canes and the Canes end up re-signing Burns, I wouldn't be surprised if he requests a trade somewhere. Don't be surprised. So
yep.
Tulsky, it's on you. He deserves it. He needs to be here. You can't re-sign Burns unless you want to sign him to a league vet minimum and have him play 7th-man rotation.
The issue is if you re-sign him, Rod's not playing him as a 7th-man rotation.
Exactly. So Tulsky, do not re-sign him. Yeah. Don't do it, man. Please,
it's really,
for the love of God, don't do
Tulsky, because if he re-signs him, Rod's going to play him. So bottom line.
Yep.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Okay. I'm done.
All right.
Yes, I'm done. I don't want to think about that anymore.
Yeah. All right. So one final sweep. Anything else before we shut the
Nope,
doors
I
for
am
this
all
week?
set.
No, other than I think my lineup from earlier change. I don't want to take apart the Hall, Kokaniemi, and Blake line. So put those
I
three
don't either.
together. Put Svechnikov with Aho and Stankoven, and put Jarvis with Stahl and Martinuk.
So, yep.
Yep.
I think I think that top six just lights up, and then whoever we put down the middle on the fourth line, we'll see what happens.
I think it's gonna be Jankowski.
So we'll see on
Yeah.
Sunday.
So
Yeah. So, anyways, with that, we're at the wow. We went long this week. Holy
about an
smokes,
hour and 20. So
hour and 20 minutes. So, anyways, for those of you that hung around this long, we do appreciate you. And so make sure to share, recommend, and have with others and friends and family to subscribe. And the more you do that, the more we can do this. And so we do appreciate everybody that has subscribed, and we'll hope for more to come in the future. So until next week, for Cam, Kyle, and myself, have a great week.